There we go. Good morning. Gosh. There we go. Good morning. I think we're live. It's so weird. I just sorted out my camera now, got the focus all going perfectly, and then I come online and it goes all blurry. So I apologize. I don't know why Facebook never gets my videos correct, or not always, put it that way. Anyway, welcome everyone. Welcome to another episode of Tuesday Coffee and Chat with Sue. And today's topic is all about holistic health and holistic tools and what their role is. Good morning, Sandra. Good morning, Les. Lovely to have you here this morning. Hope the sun is shining in your corner of the planet, wherever you are. I know Sandra's in the UK, Leslie's in South Africa. So, yes, our topic today, the use of holistic tools, the role of holistic tools in caring for our dogs and supporting them. And I'm sure many of you here already incorporate a lot of holistic health care into your dog's routines, into their health care, and also to support them behaviorally and emotionally. So a lot of this is not new to you, but perhaps I'm going to bring a slightly different perspective, or for those of you who don't use holistic tools, maybe this would be a nice introduction for you as well. So hi, good morning. Thanks, Cecile. Yes, finally had a haircut after so many months. My hairdresser always looks at her card and she says, it's like 6 months you've been here. Yeah, anyway, that's another story for another day, but thank you, Cecile. So, holistic healthcare. So, hands up or just type in the chat those of you who already incorporate holistic care, holistic tools into your routines with your dogs and support with your dogs, as most of you do. So, my experience with holistic tools actually started many years ago. My mum, used homeopathy, used some, essential oils and things in with us as children. And it was certainly something that I brought into when I became a mother and I had my own family, brought this along with me. So I used things like essential oils, like flower remedies, especially rescue remedy. I used things like homeopathy, tissue salts. Were the kind of my go-to first aid kit at home, specifically for cuts and scrapes, for tummies, for teething, for growing pains, and also for emotional upsets. If the kids had, a fight at school, were bullied, or something happened or didn't go right or whatever, then, the rescue remedy would come out, or something to help and soothe them. And certainly as babies, both my children had sensory integration problems, so that was part of their routine as well, as far as helping them to cope with the sensory overload in their worlds, in the natural environment and inside. Artificial lights and things like that sent them off. So that was certainly part of our routine and our regimes at home. And it was only about 8 years ago or so that I suddenly realized, well, why on earth are we not using these with our animals as well? And I saw that many people had started introducing these for use in animals. So it was like, yeah, that was the next step. Of course, that was where I was going to go. So again, I started off, at first it was sort of to treat, again, scrapes and bumps and lumps and cleaning ears. So instead of using harsh chemicals and things, I would more, readily use something natural, a natural product, plant-based product, that, could help them with, as I say, cleaning ears, wiping paws, scratches and scrapes and things like that. But I didn't really think also, to use them for emotional support. I did use rescue remedies sometimes, but I didn't think to use for other emotional support. But the more I've learned, the more I realize that this is their real power. Their power is not always just in the physical healing, but the power that we can really harness from particularly plant-based holistic tools I'm talking about now is the one of shifting energies, as far as whether that be a physical energy, an emotional energy, whatever that is. Some of these can be hugely beneficial for that. So Sandra says we use essential oils and flower essences. Yeah, so most of those, that's the common ones that most of us do use. Although holistic tools encompasses a huge array of methodologies. And I think maybe I'll just point that out here. I should have started with that. Is what is holistic support? Holistic support for me personally means supporting the whole being, and that includes the physical, emotional, spiritual, mental capacities of that being. It's not just it doesn't necessarily just mean naturally based, like that's where a lot of people think, well, holistic is natural as opposed to medicinal, which may be more chemical in that regard. But that's not the truth. It's holistic to me means all pieces of the puzzle, all pieces of the whole, and supporting the whole being, and not just treating symptoms, as it were, which a lot of Western medicine looks at, treating just the symptoms. So yeah, and it can incorporate a huge array of things. So for instance, many of us use things like chiropractic or physiotherapy, sound therapy, craniosacral, T-touch, all of those excuse me, I include under the banner of holistic tools. For me, those are all supplementary, complementary therapies that help to support the entire being, as it were. So yes, I'm sure there's others here that have all of those as well, or not all of them, but certainly include some of those as well for themselves and for their animals in that whole holistic picture. So again, going back to let's look at behavior in particular. Our dog's behavior, as we know, is very often just a symptom of what's really happening inside it, and can give us clues and information as to what state, emotional, physical state is internal. All right, that's just because we can't see internally all the time, but we can certainly from their behavior. So we know things like emotional imbalances and physical imbalances. If there's pain or discomfort, that can show in behavior, can show in an increase in anxiety. It can show an increase in sensitivities to light, sound, things like that. It can show up that they're not eating, or in tummy troubles. That's often together with anxiety, or overreactivity, being triggered in a big way. So all of our behavior is really just showing us symptoms of what's happening internally in that being. And like many of you know here who follow me, I look at supporting the behavior change from the inside. So we look at what's going on internally and support that, and that helps to change the behavior externally without coming from the external point of view and trying to treat the symptoms. So where I have mentioned that some of the holistic tools have great value in treating minor symptoms, grates and cuts, belly aches, headaches, things like that can really be helpful. But we really need to look at the whole animal and supporting their well-being all of the time, not just when we see symptoms. So, but supporting them on an ongoing basis, because we all want to do that. We all know that to support our own health and well-being is the best way we can keep ourselves balanced and resilient to stress, all that kind of thing, from that balanced state. So like I said, a lot of the therapies are used to ease that pain or discomfort if we know that they have that. But one of the things I wanted to point out, which I found myself sometimes slipping into, was when we use them in a way that we believe we are looking for a fix, looking for something to fix the behavior or fix the challenge that we're doing. And by that I mean, let's say your dog struggles to settle down, they struggle to be calm in certain situations, like traveling in the car, etc. We seem to find, well, what remedy will make them calm? What remedy will make them settle? What remedy will make them better so that they can travel without the discomfort? And that's all good and well coming from that intention, but again, we're moving into that fix-it space. Let me fix the dog. It's not doing the right thing. It's not feeling comfortable. I need to change that. I need to to remedy that, and what remedy. And we go from one remedy to the next. We try flower essence, we try an essential oil, we try a massage technique, a T-touch technique, we do chiropractic, we do X, Y, and Z. And while all of those things will have elements in them which very may well be treating that internal state, sometimes we get a little bit frantic, and we may be coming from that place of fear again. Like I spoke in the last week's coffee and chat, we're looking for a solution, we're looking for a fix. And when we move into this space, I ask us to have a big question mark around that. And for this reason, for the reason that each of us individually need to heal and need to shift those internal states in our own time, in our own way. And if we're constantly being given things by somebody else, if somebody says, try this, try this, try this, try this, we're not really being given the space for our body to do its own work by itself, and uncover those layers at its own time. And this is something I learned with the botanical self-selection in dogs and the healing process, that very often we may offer them things that we think may be supportive for them, and they may not. They may turn their nose up and walk away. And then we may offer things that's totally not related to the symptoms they're showing us. And yet those ones seem to be have an affinity or be attracted towards those ones. And then it's like, question mark, what is this? What conversation is this opening up between me and my dog or my animal, saying to me, what is it that is ready to be healed, that is ready, that you need right now for support? So this is where I think it's hugely empowering to know that we have all of these tools. But instead of saying, well, and we need to do X, Y, and Z to quickly fix that, or this will support that, this will support that. Let's ask the animal themselves. Let's say, let's open up that conversation. This is where, as I said, the botanicals are so powerful, because they each have an energetic signature, and that's what dogs are. They feel into it. They don't read the bottle and say what ingredients and which things does this help me with. They have an innate ability, as we do too, an innate ability to sense what our bodies need, to shift that energy. So whether it's a shift in emotional energy, whether it's shifting blocked energies caused by trauma, or uncomfortable events, all of that needs to be shifted at our own time, in our own way. And this is where I think, as I said, we can use holistic support in a different way. So not just to treat the little symptoms in your first aid kit, but actually to help the internal and the emotional healing to really take place. So that's the first element. And then the second element is to look at our emotional healing that takes place with our dogs at the same time. Because as many of you do hear, and I certainly believe, that our dogs are on this journey in our lifetime for a reason. They've come into our lives for a reason, and that is to help us both heal. We both have things to learn, places to grow into developing ourselves and becoming more authentic, becoming who we are, expressing ourselves in the world as we wish to, and certainly to heal past stuff that goes on. So whether that be abandonment, whether that be not enoughness, all of those things, our dogs experience a lot of that themselves too. They also come from not the perfect upbringing situation sometimes. So it's we have similar kind of stuff to work through, and we notice this how in how dogs mirror our energy. They mirror sometimes what we need to see in ourselves, what's triggered, what they trigger in us needs to be healed in ourselves. And like I said, they have their own stuff to heal as well, their own issues that they brought on from their past generations, through their genes and into their bloodline, is just like ours as well. So it's that healing journey that we take together. And so very often, if we change our energy, that I talk about this with the polyvagal and self-regulation. When we come from that self-regulated place, we can support our dogs. And very often our dogs need us to do the same, because they live in that close energetic space with us. They often take on some of our own stuff. And so they need to also release and heal some of that stuff that they have themselves or they've taken on from us. And so if we are using the holistic tools for ourselves, then that same energetic shifts and healing is happening inside of us that our dogs can pick up on then too. And again, this is something I've noticed in the botanical self-healing journey. It's just wonderful to see how sometimes the dog is there just to facilitate the guardian's healing and not the other way around. Not that the guardian's there to facilitate the dog's healing, but actually the other way around. So it's definitely something that we do together with our dogs, and all the therapies and modalities that are under this holistic umbrella, as it were, can all be put into good use for that reason. But it's coming from that mindset of how can we heal together? How can we open that conversation to what we need from each other, with each other, and how can we support each other, as opposed to, here, this on this bottle says this, you need to have that. You're showing this symptom, so you must have that, have this. So instead of giving it as a, what is the word, or using it as a remedy or a therapy or a something, let's use this as a question mark. Let's use these tools to open up conversations between ourselves and our dogs and ask the question, how can I support you? What do you need for that support? So that's my little 2 cents worth today on holistic tools, the role. As you all may have different ideas of what roles they play in your life to support your dogs and yourselves. But this is something that I'm discovering more and more now, is that these tools are certainly, a lot of them on an energetic basis, they're helping to shift energies. And I recently posted something from Mandy Danks, who works in her Facebook group is called Connective Energetics, and she does a lot to do with plants and energies and shifting. And I had a lovely conversation with her recently, and just reminded me how much of the holistic toolkit, as it were, is not necessarily there to be used as a fixer toolkit, but to be used as in a supportive way, and to open up that conversation. So, any questions or comments around that? Have you used holistic tools to open up conversations with your dog, to find out what you need and to find out what they need, and helping each other on that journey of healing and growth? So I'm just waiting for a couple of comments to come through to see if there's anything there. And yes, let me just see. I'm sorry, I'm losing these things are moving out of the space in the way here. So yeah, so that's my little share for today. I hope that you can use some of your holistic tools, or ask some of those questions for yourself and find out which ones. And I'd love to know which is your favorite. Post in the comments if you're watching this on replay later. What is your favorite tool? What is your favorite modality, technique, something that you use? Reiki. I've got crystals here. I've got essences. I have, you name it. I use so much of it, and yet, coming from a different mindset, sometimes it's just sitting with that in a different space. So Sandra says, no, I must admit I use it as a fix-it. Yeah, and most of us do. And that's where we start. I certainly started, Sandra, there, was to use it as that, to fix whatever ailment was showing up. Good morning, Tina. Lovely to see you here. So yeah, that was where most of us use it. And I'm sure, there certainly is a beautiful space for that, for us to use it in that way. But I think, as I said, I'm keen on exploring this deeper aspect of what we're using it for, and that's to open up these conversations. Cecile says, I'm very interested, but I know so little, so usually very unsure about what I do. Yeah, and again, it comes back to a bit of experimentation, Cecile, because I think sometimes we are scared to try new things. We're scared to experiment and see, and yet it's so natural. I made that post recently that a lot of people picked up on, which is, how do our dogs learn? They learn from trying things out, from watching, from noticing different changes, from feeling subtle shifts inside themselves and whether they're motivated to do something or not. That's how they learn. And then they just go out and they do it and they feel into that. Did that feel right? What was the result? Etc. And I think a lot of us are, can take a good cue from our dogs in that respect and say, well, let's explore this. Let's learn about this. Let's feel what this plant makes me feel like, or this remedy does, or when I go and come back from a massage or a chiro treatment or a physio treatment, I feel like $1 million. What does that feel like in my body? What was that telling my body that I need to pay attention to? Or how did that, did that shift in energy inside me, not only to physically feel better, but do I emotionally feel better the next day? And we can notice those changes in our dogs too. So it's good to experiment. As I said, there's nothing wrong with it. If you feel uncomfortable about experimenting, certainly with the plant extracts and herbs and botanicals, there are some contraindications when it comes to if your dog's on certain medications, etc., that crossover. So yes, then reach out to a professional and get that advice. We have so many in this group, I know, that are holistic, use all sorts of holistic modalities. Tina's here. I know she's a veterinary physio, and she uses a lot of the plant essential oils and flower essences as well. So there's plenty of, reach out and ask if you want support or if you have questions, if this may or may not be something. But don't be frightened to experiment, and don't be frightened to explore these as something different that you can use for yourself and your dog, because they really are powerful, much more powerful than we think. And I think I'm just going to end off with the last thing, because there may be some of you who think, well, what about normal medication? I'm not against Western medicine, and I absolutely believe it has its place. And I certainly have have been very what is the word? I've shifted my mindset around that, because for me it was a very difficult thing. I really wanted to steer clear of using, medicines and drugs, etc., to support myself and my dogs. But I honestly can say, if I have a real headache and I can't function for the rest of the day without it, I'm gonna pop a paracetamol or an ibuprofen or whatever without even thinking about it, because I know it's going to help me in that moment to feel a heck of a lot better and get on with what I need to. But I know also that I'm just using it as a quick fix, and that when I have the time, I need to sit with myself and ask myself those questions. Why is that coming up? Is it stress? Is it something I need to do? Am I taking care of myself, etc.? So there's absolutely nothing wrong with medications, and they certainly have their purpose. And we need to have that good relationship with our vets, that we can have that conversation with them about what our dogs need, how they need it, and when we can bring in the alternative modalities and therapies to support that as well. So I just wanted you to know I'm not totally anti, because a lot of people say, oh, but there is certainly a place for Western medicine and drugs as well. So these are, as I say, for us to open that conversation. So Erin says, hi Erin, okay, wonderful. So you're using the botanicals as well. Great. Mary says, hadn't thought about using them to open up conversations, would love to learn more. Yeah, so that's definitely the journey I'm on with the botanicals in particular at the moment, as I say, is opening up the conversation for the dog, opening up the conversation between the person and their dog, and seeing what's needed, what's needed there. Tina says, and that question should be the same for alternatives too. Absolutely, Tina. Yes, absolutely. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you for listening, and I wish you all a wonderful Tuesday. And if, as I say, any other questions or comments after you've listening to this on the replay, would love to hear from you. Thanks everybody. Take care now. Have a good day. Bye.